Good morning. Today we are doing linear equations in slope-intercept form again, using y equals mx plus b. But we're not just going to be writing the equation. We're going to do a little bit more. So, reminder for how we write equations in slope-intercept form. Identify first our m, which is our slope, in front of the x. Do not include the x when you write slope. So you just write m is just a number, like right here, m is -4. Then, if you don't know it, use 2 points to calculate it. Step 2, find the y-intercept. Our y-intercept is represented by the letter b. You can substitute the slope and the coordinates of the point in to solve for b, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We have 2 points, or not 2 points, a point, x and y. And our slope, we're going to plug that in to solve for b. And then we can write an equation in the form y equals mx plus b. So right now, if we look at our equation that we're trying to get to, we have m, which is -4, so we could plug that in here for m. We also have a point, x, and a point for y. We can plug that in for y and for x, and solve it to figure out what b is, because b would be the only thing we don't have a number for. So if we plug these in, first, y is 3, m is -4, and it's touching x, so that's multiplied by x, which is a -1, and then we need to figure out what b is. So if we solve this, simplify first, -4 times -1 makes a +4 plus b. And all we're trying to do is get b by itself, so I need to subtract 4. So 4 minus 4 is 0. 3 minus 4 is -1. So now we have b, and we have m. We can write an equation. So our equation should read y equals mx plus b. So m is -4x. Plus b, or in this case, minus b, -1. If that was a little confusing, let's try the same thing again. We're looking at our equation, y equals mx plus b, and we're going to plug in everything we know. Here's our point, xy, always in alphabetical order. So we're going to plug in a 6 for x, and a -4 for y. And our slope this time is 1/3, so that goes in for m. So if we write it out, we have -4 equals our slope, which is 1/3, times x, which is 6, and then plus b right here. So if we solve this, 1/3 times 6, 6 is really 6 over 1, so if we multiply it, 1 times 6 is 6, 3 times 1 is 3, while 6 divided by 3 is 2. So we have -4 equals 2 plus b. And we want b all by itself, so I'm going to subtract 2. -4 and another -2, they're all negative, so it's a total of a -6 equals b. This is a 6. So now we have m, and we have b. We have both terms. So let's write our equation. Y equals mx plus b, so m is 1/3 x. Plus b, or in this case, minus b, -6. Alright, let's keep going. Here, we're going to do the exact same thing. Identify our slope, and then plug in our point and our slope to find b in our equation. But this time, we don't have our slope, so we're going to find our slope using our slope equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You can find this on the wall in the classroom. So in order to figure out my slope, I'm going to plug my points in here. This is xy first point, xy second point. So if I plug that in, y2 minus y1, we have -1 minus 5. And then x2 minus x1, we have 2 minus a -2. Those two negatives make a positive. So -1 minus 5, they're all negative, so that's a -6. 2 plus 2 is 4. So we can simplify this by dividing by 2. So our slope is really negative 3 over 2. There's our slope. So now we have 2 points. It doesn't matter which point you pick. I'm just going to pick the first one. Because we have our equation y equals mx plus b that we're going to plug in for x and for y. So if you picked this point, that's fine. I'm just picking one of the 2 points. And then our m we're going to plug in for our slope. So y, which is really the number 5. M, which is our slope, we just counted that, or found it out, negative 3 over 2, times x, which is a negative 2, and plus b. We don't know what b is. That's what we're trying to find here in step 2. We found our slope, now we're finding b, our y-intercept. So negative 3 times negative 2, well, negative 3 over 2 times negative 2, we know this is 2 over 1, so a negative times a negative makes a positive 6. On the bottom, 2 times 1 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that makes 3. And then last, to get b by itself, just subtract 3. So 5 minus 3 is 2. So b is 2. So if we write our equation in the form right here, y equals mx plus b, it would be y equals m, which is negative 3 over 2, x, plus b, which is 2. I would like for you to try this next one on your own. Find your slope using the slope formula, and then find b when you plug everything in. Click play once you've done it to see if you got it right. So here I'm going to label my points xy first point, xy second point, and plug them in to find my slope. So my equation right here says y2 minus y1, so 4 minus a negative 2, that should make a positive. And then on the bottom, x2 minus x1, negative 5 minus 1. Well, 4 plus 2 is 6. Negative 5 minus 1 is a negative 6. So if we simplify that, our slope is 6 over 6, which is 1, and it's negative. So we have our slope, and now we need to plug it in to our equation y equals mx plus b to get b all by itself. So I'm going to just use the first point. If you use the second one, you'll get the same answer. So y is negative 2, m is negative 1, times x, which is 1, that's a 1, plus b. So negative 1 times 1 is just negative 1. So to get rid of this, to get b all by itself, we're just going to add 1. Negative 2 plus 1, there's more negatives still, it's a negative 1. So that's b. So writing in our equation, y equals m, which is negative 1, x, plus b, or in this case, minus b, minus 1. So we're just writing our equation in the form y equals mx plus b. We just need to find m and b first. Let's do the same thing here. We're going to find m, our slope. So I'm just going to count rise over run. So I'm going to start at this point. If you start at this one, that's fine. But I'm rising 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm running 1, 2. Always write it as a fraction. But we can simplify this. 6 divided by 2 is 3, or 3 over 1. And then, just like we did before, we can't see where this is going to cross the y-axis. It's going to be up here somewhere, but we can't guess what that is. Instead, we're going to use our equation, y equals mx plus b, and plug in a point for x and y, and our slope to find b. So it doesn't matter which point you use. I'm going to use this one up here because there are more positive numbers. So I'm going to use this point, negative 2, 2. But if you want to use this point, you'll get the same answer. we're just going to use one of our 2 points. So remember x and then y. So this goes in for x, this goes in for y, and then our slope we're going to plug in right here is 3. So we have y, which is 2, equals our slope, which is 3, times x, which is -2, plus b. So 3 times -2 is -6. So to move that -6, I have to add 6. So 6 plus 2 is 8. So b is 8, and that makes sense. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 would probably be up here somewhere. So our equation would be y equals m, which is 3x, plus b, which is 8. Y equals mx plus b. Now this one too, we could make a guess as to where our b is, but instead of guessing, we're going to use this equation to help us. First, I'm going to find my slope. My slope from here to here, we're going down, so -1, -2, and over 1, 2, 3, 4. We can simplify this by dividing by 2 to give us -1 over 2, or -1/2. So there's m, but now we need to find b. So we're going to use our equation. And, you know, this point looks a lot easier to plug in because there's a 0. You could use this point, you'll get the same answer, just harder numbers to deal with. So this is x and this is y. So y is 0, we're going to plug that in there. M is -1/2 times x, which is 1, and then plus b. So if I multiply this, -1/2 times 1 is still -1/2. And then the opposite here, to move this, we're going to add 1/2. Oops, not divide. Add 1/2 here as well. So we have 1/2 equals b. We just moved the negative over to be with the positive. So our equation, in the form y equals mx plus b, y equals m, which is -1/2 x, plus b, which is 1/2. And it makes sense that if we look at our graph, it's between 0 and 1. We just weren't exactly sure. It could have been 0.6, it could have been 0.4. We need to make sure it's exactly 1/2 or 0.5. Now we're going to do the same thing. This is a review of what we did yesterday, just to make sure we're on the right track. So reminder, this is in the form f of x equals y. So this is really just a point, -2, -2. And this is just the point x, y, or 4, -8. So we just answered the question, what are the 2 points? We just figured them out using what we know about functions. Then, what do we know about slope? Well, they don't tell us the slope, but we do know that we can use our slope formula to find our slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So first let's find our slope. I'm going to do that over here and label my points x, y first point, x, y second point, and plug them in. So y2 is -8 minus y1, which is a -2. Those two negatives make a positive. Then on the bottom, x2 minus x1. 4 minus a -2. Again, two negatives make a positive. So -8 plus 2, there's more negatives, there's 6 more. And 4 plus 2 is 6. So this one, right here, 6 over 6 is the same as 1, and it's negative, so -1. This seems like the last one, but what's different about this problem is, yesterday we looked for the point 0, b to find our y-intercept. We can't do that today because there's no 0 in our points. So we instead need to use the equation y equals mx plus b to figure out what b is. So I'm just going to use the first point here. If you want to use the second point, you can. So I'm going to plug this number in for x, this number in for y, and then plug in our slope for m. So y is -2, m is -1, times x, which is -2, and then we're trying to figure out what b is. So -1 times -2 makes a +2. And then we need b all by itself, so the opposite of positive would be subtract, or negative. A -2 and another -2, they're all negative, so we have a total of -4. So if we want an equation in this form, y equals mx plus b, we have m and we have b, we can just plug them in. Y equals -1x plus b, or in this case, minus b, or -4. So this is our final answer that we're looking for. And we followed these steps. We found our slope right here. What's the y-intercept? That's right here. B is our y-intercept. And then write the equation right there. Now, this one looks very similar to tables we've looked at in the past. We can use the same information, pick 2 points, find the slope, find the y-intercept, and write the equation. The only difference is, this is x and f of x is just a fancy way of saying y. Same thing here. It says write an equation that represents the linear function shown in the table. This point xy is really the point 1, -1, as an ordered pair. This point is really 0, 1. And we only need 2 points to find slope, so I don't even need to use this third point. If I wanted to use that one instead, sure, I could. I'd get the same answer. But I'm going to find my slope using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So first, I'm going to label my points xy first point, xy second point. So I need to do y2 minus y1. So I have 1 minus y1, which is -1. Those make a positive. Then on the bottom, x2 minus x1, 0 minus 1. Well, 1 plus 1 is 2. 0 minus 1 is -1. So if we simplify that, 2 divided by 1 is 2, and it's negative. So there's our slope. We picked our points, we found our slope. Now I need to find the y-intercept, or b. So we know we have points and we have a slope here. So we can use our equation y equals mx plus b to plug them in. I'm going to use this point because I like plugging in 0. So y is 1, m is -2, x right here is 0, and then plus b. So this one, if I solve this, anything times 0 is 0, so we just have 0 plus b, or just b, equals 1. Now this is one where we could have just looked here, you guys. Remember the other day we learned 0 comma b? We could have just looked to see that b was 1. But we're using this strategy, so that's why we went all the way through the problem. So our equation is y equals mx plus b. So m is -2x plus b, which is 1. Let's try the same thing over here. Our points here are xy, -4, -2, -2, -1, and 0, 0. It doesn't matter which 2 points we use, but we only need 2 points to find the slope. Well, I like 0. I like plugging in 0. So I'm just going to use this last 2 points. So our slope, I'm going to just do our slope up here, is going to be y2 minus y1, just like we have over here. So I'm going to label these x, y my first point, x, y my second point, and plug them in. So y2 minus y1, we have 0 minus -1. Those two negatives make a positive. And then the bottom, x2 minus x1, 0 minus a -2. And again, those make a positive. 0 plus 1 is 1. 0 plus 2 is 2. So our slope is 1/2. So this is another one. We have our slope. We could use our equation y equals mx plus b. And I would like to plug in 0, 0. So if I plug in 0 for x and for y, we'd have 0 equals, our slope is 1/2 times 0 plus b. Well, anything times 0 is 0, so we have b equals 0. Well, isn't that what we said here? 0 comma b, Well, 0 would just be 0. So our equation is y equals mx plus b, so m is 1/2 x plus b, which is 0. So we did the same information we did here. The only difference is it's given to us in a table instead of listed as 2 points. Our last couple problems, it says decide whether the 3 points lie on the same line. Explain how you know. If the points do not lie on the same line, write an equation, or if they do lie on the same line, write an equation of the line that passes through all 3 points. So we have 3 points. We need to find the slope between these 2 points. We need to find the slope between these 2 points. And we need to find the slope between the first point and the last point. So we can do this by using our slope equation, or our slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, if these all are on the same line, that means from one point to the next, they all have the same slope. So that's why we're looking at slope. If they all have the same slope, they're all on the same line. But if they don't have the same slope, if one has a slope like this and the other has a slope like this, well, that's not a straight line. That's not a function. So first, I'm going to look at the slope just between our first 2 points. And I'm going to remember that these go in the order x, y. So I'm going to do y2 minus y1. So, oops, these are 2. y2 minus y1, so negative 8 minus 7. And then x2 minus x1, negative 2 minus 3. Well, these are all negatives, so if we add them up, that's a negative 15. On the bottom, these are all negatives as well. That should give us a negative 5. We know 2 negatives make a positive, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. So the slope between our first 2 points is 3. Then our slope between the next 2 points, these 2 points, I'm going to label those as well, except I'm going to relabel them because now I have 2 new points. X, y, my first point now, x, y, my second point now. I'm not even including this one right now. So y2 minus y1, we have negative 19 minus a negative 8. Again, 2 negatives make a positive. And then on the bottom, x2, which is 7, minus x1, which is a negative 2, again making a positive. So negative 19 plus 8, there are more negatives. There should be 11 more negatives. And 7 plus 2 is 9. We can't simplify that, so that's our slope. Now you can tell already, are these the same number? Well, no, they're not. They're very different. So these points are not going to be on the same line. If our slope was the same every time, they would be on the same line. So decide whether they're on the line. How do you know? So I'm going to say not on the same line because the slopes are different. This is telling us that on our coordinate plane, from one point to the next, we have a slope of 3, but then our next one is negative 11 over 9. So they're very different. They're not making a nice straight line with those 3 points. Next, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to first find the slope between these 2. So I'm going to label my points x, y first point, x, y second point, and plug in y2 minus y1. So I have 2.8 minus 4. And then x2 minus x1, we have negative 3 minus a negative 10. And those 2 negatives make a positive. Well, 2.8 minus 4, there's more negatives. 4 minus 2.8, what's the difference between these two? Well, we have a 0.2, because from 2.8 to 3 would be 0.2. And then to get to 4, we would have to have another 1. On the bottom, negative 3 plus 10, there's more positives. There are 7 more. So I'm going to plug this one in my calculator to simplify that because I don't know what 1.2 divided by 7 is. So negative 1.2 divided by 7. And it's going to give me a weird decimal. It's about negative 0.171. It goes on and on, but I'm going to stop there because we want our next slope to be the same as this. If not, they're going to be different slopes, and they're not going to be on the same line. So let's look at these two. I'm going to label my points, or relabel my points. XY first point, XY second point. We're ignoring the first point now. So y2 minus y1, we have 6.8 minus 2.8. And then negative 17 minus a negative 3. Again, those make a positive. 6.8 minus 2.8. Well, 6 minus 2 is 4. And 0.8 minus 0.8 is 0. So 4.0 or just 4. Negative 17 plus 3. There's more negatives. So 17 minus 3 is 14. Well, 14 divided by 4. I could simplify that. But if I want the exact same decimal, I'm going to need it in my calculator. And this one in my calculator is negative 0.28, and then it goes on. So right away I can tell that my slopes are different. So no, these are not on the same line because the slopes are different. If on your homework you have one where the slopes are the same, you could write an equation using your slope and a point like we did back here. So again, all we were trying to figure out is, were these points on the same line? Were all three of the points in a nice straight line with the same slope? Alright, 2 problems left. Solving a multi-step problem. This one, they're going to give us some sort of information, and we need to write an equation in the form y equals mx plus b, because that's what we're learning today. It says your gym membership costs $33 per month after an initial membership fee. So this initial membership fee, whatever that fee is, you're only paying that one time. So in our equation, the thing that you're beginning to pay one time is really going to be our b. What you're paying over and over and over again per month, that is going to be our m, or our slope, because we're repeating that cost times the number of months that we are at the gym. So it says you paid a total of $228 after 6 months. So this is a total cost after a certain number of months. Write your equation that gives the total cost as a function of the length of your gym membership. So these words, equation and function, tell us that we're writing in this form, y equals mx plus b, function form, solve for y. And then once we have an equation, find the cost after 9 months. So it says, think, what's changing, what isn't changing? Well, what's changing, our cost is repeating itself, or you have to pay that every single month, the 33. What isn't changing? Well, our initial membership fee is a one-time fee, but we don't know what that is. So this information that they give us right here, 228 after 6 months, we know that the 33 per month is our slope. Well, aren't we multiplying our slope by the number of months? So this information is really given to us as a point, and our 6 is the number of months that we'd plug in for x. So in terms of x and y, x would be 6, and 228 would be our total cost that we get out in the end. Because this cost multiplied by the number of months plus our initial membership fee will give us y, which is our total cost. So we have this point, I'm going to rewrite it down here, 6, 228 for x and for y. And we also know our slope, or our m, is $33 each month. So we're going to use the equation y equals mx plus b and plug in what we know. X is 6, m is 33, and y is 228. And we're trying to figure out what b is. So it's 33 times, that's a 6 there. I'm going to plug that in my calculator. 33 times 6 gives me 198. We are trying to find our initial membership fee. We don't know what that is. It's the only thing we don't know. And then solving for B, we have to subtract 198. So B, our initial membership fee, we have 228 minus 198 gives me 30. So our initial membership fee is $30. So our equation is y equals mx plus b. We have m is 33x plus b, which is 30. So now we answered the question, write an equation, but now it says find the total cost after 9 months. Our number of months we plugged in for x because it's $33 per month. So if we're going to plug in 9, that will go in for x. So 33 times 9, and then we're going to add 30. So 33 times 9, if I plug that in my calculator, gives me 297, and add 30. So 297 plus 30 gives me $327. The dollar sign there. $327. So it costs you that much money to go to the gym for 9 months. Seems like a lot of money. This next one is the same. We're writing an equation in this form, y equals mx plus b. But instead of them giving us our slope and a point, they're giving us 2 points. So it says, in a bicycle motocross racing, racers purchase a 1-year membership to a track. They also pay an entry fee for each race at the track. So this 1-year membership is a one-time fee. That's going to be B. We don't know what that is. They also pay an entry fee for each race at the track. So each race, they're paying an entry fee. That's what's happening over and over and over again. That's going to be our slope, which we're doing multiple times. M is for multiple, and our slope. So here's they're giving us our 2 points. One racer paid $125 after 5 races. A second racer paid $170 after 8 races. Oops, that's hard to see. We need to write an equation. Well, first, we can write these as points. We know that each race is going to cost some amount of money, and we're going to multiply it by the number of races. Plus, our initial membership fee will give us y, which is our total cost. So we don't know what y is, other than it's the total cost. We know x is going to be the number of races that we're doing. So this 125 after 5 races, y would give us x, the number of races would be 5 races, would cost $125. And then our other point, 8 races, would cost $170. So we're writing them in the form xy because they're like points. X was the number of races right here, and y was the total cost. We can use this information, just like we've been doing all day, to find our slope. Our slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's plug that in. This is my first point. This is my second point. y2 minus y1, so 170 minus 125. And then x2 minus x1, we have 8 minus 5. So 170 minus 125 should give us 45. 8 minus 5 is 3. And 45 divided by 3 should give us 15. So that 15 either needs to be our membership cost or our entry fee per race. Well, M is multiplied by the number of races, so it better be our entry fee, which we're paying per race, because it's multiplied by the number of races. So there's that. Now we need to figure out our membership cost, which is the one-time cost. We found M, now we need to find B. That's what we've been doing all day. Find M, then find B. So we know the equation y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to use one of our points. I'm just going to use this point here because the numbers are smaller. So y is 125. Our m we just found out is 15 times x, which is 5, plus B. We're going to find out B, the one-time membership cost. So 15 times 5, well, 10 times 5 would be 50. 5 times 5 is 25. So that should give us 75. Or you can just plug it in your calculator. And then subtract 75 to get B by itself. B equals, should give us 50. So we subtract those, we get 0. 12 minus 7 is 5. So our membership fee, our one-time fee, is $50. So we answered both of these questions. How much does the track membership cost? That membership fee is $50. The entry fee per race is 15. So if we wanted to, we could write an equation. Y equals 15x plus 50. We use these two pieces of information to write points, find slope, and our y-intercept. Your homework is a worksheet. Good luck!